Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk. I am your host, John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be talking about 1994's Timecop and its brand new Scream Factory 4K Blu-ray that just came out. But before we get into that 4K Blu-ray review, I always like to give a quick film review, and today is no different. So if you don't want to know anything about Timecop and you're just here for that 4K Blu-ray review, you guys can skip ahead to that right now. So Timecop was released in 1994. It's directed by Peter Hyams. It stars Jean-Claude Van Damme, and this is definitely a Jean-Claude Van Damme vehicle. It's actually based on a Dark Horse comics very similar to The Mask, and it also came out the same year as The Mask, 1994, so that's pretty interesting. And it's got such a cool concept, and that was the thing that I realized watching this for the second time in my life, because I've told you guys in the past, I am not the world's biggest Jean-Claude Van Damme fan. I kind of put him in that like B tier of action stars from the 1980s. You know, there's him and Steven Seagal, kind of behind Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, the big dogs in the yard. And you could argue that those two are not the world's greatest actors. Then when you drop off to Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme, then you're really messing with actors who are not necessarily that good, especially Jean-Claude Van Damme. But what Jean-Claude Van Damme has over Steven Seagal is that he's not an asshole, because Steven Seagal, I just refuse to watch his movies. I've never really seen that many good ones. Under Siege is the exception, but I give more credit to like Tommy Lee Jones in that movie. So not the world's biggest Steven Seagal fan. Whereas Jean-Claude Van Damme, it was just always hard for me to look past his acting. Never really minded him in movies. I always thought he was a great martial artist, very entertaining to watch, but his acting would usually take me out of things. But after watching Kickboxer last year, I was like, okay, I'm going to make a commitment to watch more Jean-Claude Van Damme films. And then when Timecop got announced as 4K Blu-ray, I'm like, okay, it's time to revisit the film and let me see what I think of it. And for the most part, it was good. It was very entertaining. I enjoyed myself this time around. It's got plot holes galore. Jean-Claude Van Damme is doing his best, but the problem with this movie is it just feels like a missed opportunity, because the concept, like I said, is so cool. We're dealing with cops who have to travel through time, only to the past. I like that they set that rule up. You know, the future hasn't happened yet, so time travel, it only goes in the past. That's the most that our technology has gotten, so we have to make cops to enforce this, to make sure that nothing happens, make sure nobody goes too far back and changes anything that causes these ripples, these effects that are gonna fuck up the future. All things that we know about time travel, but they set their rules pretty early. Makes a lot of sense. You know, again, like early in the movie, we open up with a cool scene in the I think it was the 1860s, and then we see that futuristic gun, the rain's coming down, like, oh my god, we're into this. And then early in the movie as well, when we first see Jean-Claude Van Damme travel back in time right on the day of the stock market crash. This guy's taking advantage of the crash. Used to be Jean-Claude Van Damme's partner, but we're in the 1940s. I love this scene. I love seeing Jean-Claude Van Damme like enforce the law of being a time cop, and then it kind of just, you know, walls into this melodramatic stuff. Like, for the most part, this movie takes place in 1994 and 2004. 2004, that was the future at the time, 10 years in the future. But for the most part, they kind of bend over backwards to make this movie take place in the 1990s and 2004, which is fine, but it's really just dealing with this it's really just dealing with the plot of Jean-Claude Van Damme, whose wife passed away right as the time as he was going to be becoming a time cop. So she passed away, and then the movie kind of turns into a situation where he can end up saving his wife. They throw in a Deus Ex Machina like plot twist towards the very end where, oh, you know, when she died, she was also pregnant. Like, oh shit, now I have another reason to save her. If there was no other reason to save her, that's his wife, he loved her, that was more than enough. I kind of felt like they bent over backwards to make this more of a melodrama, where the action stuff was more than enough to carry this movie along. It would have been just fun just to see Jean-Claude Van Damme traveling back in time and, you know, solving all of these crimes of time travel. But unfortunately, it kind of becomes a more political film, which, you know, works fine. Ron Silver is great as this politician who wants to become president, a piece of shit politician. And, you know, you hear the things that he's saying in this movie about only making the 10% rich, and then it kind of rings true with what's happening in the world today. And you're like, well, you know, this is supposed to be like almost a B action movie, so of course they're going to over exaggerate things. If only they knew how close they were in that sense. But I just love the aspects when Jean-Claude Van Damme is like kicking ass and traveling through time. I don't know if they just didn't have enough money, but the movie cost $29 million to make, so it seemed like they had enough money, especially for 1994. And the movie turned out to be a hit, making over $129 million at the box office. So that probably should have led to more sequels that would have been better with the concept, which would have been better with the concept of Timecop. I know it got a sequel, but I think it was a direct-to-video sequel, and it also has a TV show. Just not the same stuff. It just felt like that they had so much opportunity in this movie to make a really good action movie that stands out, whereas people remember this movie, but they just remember it really for being a good Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, and not necessarily for being a good time travel movie. It's very entertaining. It's like your solid 7 out of 10. You have a good time watching it. I just had this passion in me where I felt like this movie could have been so much more had it had a better screenplay, in my opinion. I think if they would have just got away from that melodramatic stuff and concentrated on making a good time travel movie, there's just so much in here, and I felt like it could have been just so much better, but they were just focused on the wrong things. But either way, it's still a good movie. I enjoyed myself. I didn't enjoy it as much as I did when I watched Kickboxer, and it's still not one of my favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme movies like Sudden Death, but I can still say that this is in the top 5 Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, one that's enjoyable. I'll probably run back to it in a year or two. It's one of those movies you kind of watch on like a Saturday morning, kind of turn your brain off. You enjoy it. You enjoy Jean-Claude Van Damme kicking ass. He's got that long hair in this movie. It looks very good, better than his short hair in my opinion. Jean-Claude Van Damme's definitely trying. It's just he's not the world's greatest actor, and I feel like it does kind of hold the movie back a little bit. But we're also here today to talk about the 4K Blu-ray that just came out from Scream Factory, so let's talk about that right now. And here it is. This actually doesn't come out until April 29th, but if you order from Scream Factory directly, you'll usually get the 4K Blu-ray a little bit earlier. Got this almost a month earlier, so I really do appreciate that, Scream Factory. Now, I'm going to have to talk some crap about them because, unfortunately, my biggest flaw with Timecop is the fact that this 4K Blu-ray has absolutely no extras on it. Not even a trailer, nothing. So if you watch the 4K Blu-ray, no extras. You pop that Blu-ray in, no extras. The only thing they're even promoting on the back of the box as special features, like why even list special features? That's not a special feature. All it says is for the 4K Blu-ray, new scan of the original 35mm negative, and then it says under the Blu-ray, new scan of the 35mm negative. That's it. Don't even put special features on there if you're going to do that. Absolutely ridiculous. I guess they really do believe that these are extras because it's just extra. You don't adjust the cost if you don't have any extras on there. Like, they didn't give us anything. And as somebody who's a huge extras junkie, and honestly, that's one of the things that makes me buy physical media, is that I love to go in and check the extras after the movie's over. I don't understand what happened. Maybe there's a reason, a very specific reason that I'm not aware of, that why they can't have any extras for this movie. I'm not entirely sure, but that's absolutely ridiculous when you pay the same amount of money for like this compared to something that Scream Factory has released in the past that has a ton of extras, like even 3-disc sets that will come out for the same exact $35 price tag that this comes out for. I mean, I know not everybody cares about extras, and for them it's just extra. They're really just there for the visual and audio upgrade, and maybe that's more than enough. But for me personally, to pay this kind of price, and I didn't know that when I pre-ordered it, because I pre-ordered it right after they announced it. I pre-ordered this and a bunch of other stuff, and I was like, okay, they'll probably just announce the extras, as they get closer to release date, like a lot of other studios do. Little did I know, nope, no extras at all. I'm very disappointed with that. I feel like, you should adjust the price if you're not going to give us anything extra when you usually do. So you're giving an unfinished product, in my opinion. So that is very, very, very frustrating. But I know not everybody cares about the extras. So how is the audio and visuals? Well, the audio is the same DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 that had been released in the past. And it's good. It's actually really, really, really good. You notice how good it is right away in the opening sequence with the rain coming down, heavy bass, everything comes in crisp and clear. It's an action movie. So it's very well mixed. I actually was very, very impressed with it, making very good use of my rears. So I can understand why they definitely didn't upgrade that audio, because the audio is very impressive. Now the visuals are very impressive. You upgrade to HDR10 and Dolby Vision. It is a brand new scan of the original camera negative. So they really did a good job upgrading those visuals. It looks like a beautiful film now. Is it a 10 out of 10 transfer as far as the visuals? No, but it's still a very good upgrade. There were some scenes that looked overly grainy in like the same scene where I guess they had different shots. So like a close-up might look overly grainy. Then when they kind of zoom out to a wide shot, all the grain kind of materializes in a natural way instead of it like becoming overly snowy. So that stuff becomes a little bit noticeable. But again, I guess that's just, one of those things. where that shot in particular just wasn't that good and they weren't able to clean that up very well. But for the most part, it's a very good transfer. The HDR and Dolby Vision are doing great work. It's a pretty colorful film. Just think about the mall scene earlier in the movie. You know, you got the balloons and everything. All that stuff is just going to stand out now. When they go back to the 1940s and you got like that orange glow, all that stuff looks absolutely beautiful. I have very little complaints when it comes to the visuals and very little complaints when it comes to the audio. It's really the fact that this feels like an incomplete disc. If I'm going to knock Warner Brothers for doing this, or I'm going to knock Paramount for doing this, where all you're going to be giving is a visual upgrade and then charging a full premium price, I have to knock Scream Factory for doing the exact same thing. And I love Scream Factory, but, you know, I got to call a spade. And in this case, Scream Factory really dropped the ball, in my opinion. I get it. Not everyone's going to agree. You know, you just want to know if those visuals and audio are good. But for me, you could buy this on a 50% off sale in the Shocktober sale that comes out in October. Hopefully they include Timecop in that, because this is a 4K Blu-ray that should be priced no higher than $20, because all you're going to be getting is an upgrade to the visuals. If you already have a previously released version of this, you know, you're getting the same audio. You get, I don't even know if those have extras on it because I've never owned the movie before, but if it has none, it's the exact same thing. So all you're going to be getting is an upgrade to the visuals, and that, in my opinion, is not worth the $35 price tag. So unfortunately, Scream Factory dropped the ball hard on this, in my opinion. You should have adjusted the price accordingly. I get it. You know, you're kind of taking advantage of the Jean-Claude Van Damme fans and people who generally love this movie because it's developed a huge cult following. You know, for me, there was no emotional connection. I just wanted to try this movie out again, and I was expecting a little bit more when it came to the extras. You know, the film itself is the film itself. I thought it's pretty good, but it's not one that I'm generally in love with. So I was just very disappointed we didn't get those extras. But the visuals and audio are good. If you're a huge fan of Timecop, I guess this is worth your time and money. But for me, this is a very disappointing release from Scream Factory. And if I was going to give this 4K Blu-ray a score of 1 to 10, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Can't give this one a passing grade. But guys, it's also Tuesday, and that means it's time for our digital code giveaway. So I'm going to kick this over to my future self right now. Hey everyone, just popping in at the end of the video for this week's digital code giveaway. And every single video that we do on Friday, I ask you guys 2 digital code giveaway questions. All you got to do is answer one of those in the comment section below. As long as you did that, you came back to this video right here. I put your name on a magic wheel. We spun that bad boy 2 times, and the 2 names that landed on, they had their choice. The digital codes that you've seen on your screen before you today. And without further ado, let's spin this magic wheel. All right, there you have it. Congratulations, guys. And we're going to go with 3 winners this week because it was right on the line for Thomas Anderson there. So we'll say Thomas Anderson gets a digital code as well. And Shane Stock, who's been a long-time subscriber to the channel, he used to enter into the giveaways like right in the beginning, like Cat Daddy Carnage, when there was like 6 people on the wheel. So always cool to see him get a win as well. So you guys know how this works. Reach out to me. My email address, letstalkentmt@gmail.com. Or you can always reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, the artist formerly known as Twitter. Just let me know which of those digital codes you want. As long as the other winner doesn't take it, that digital code is all yours. And I want to thank Mr. Smelly Potato, our bankroll member, for donating some digital codes as well for this very giveaway. And I want to thank all of our channel members. So if you are a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel like John Doe Juggalo, or even a channel director like Uncle V, Kevin Kruger, and Nicholas Head, and of course our bankroll members like Mr. Smelly Potato and the legendary Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews. Make sure you guys are subscribed to his YouTube channel and John Doe Juggalo's YouTube channel as well. Great guys with great channels. And of course, guys, if you have no money to throw our way, don't worry about it at all. We just hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.